The best recap of Husker sports. Husker Rewind.
Welcome to the circus.
Harris went out, deep right sideline, 50-50 ball, it's picked off! The black shirts with a dagger, Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick, sails the night for the Big Red. We're done, Huskers win, golly grandkids.
They are storming the floor. Love it. Say your name, Fred Hoiberg. There's your signature win.
The Nebraska Cornhuskers have run the table and run it back. Back-to-back Big Ten tournament champions.
Here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
4 on the shot clock, in the paint, shot on the way, no good. Rebound Nebraska, Huskers have it, 9 seconds left to go. Well, across the timeline, Price to Traeger. Layup, yes! Yes! It's good! 2.2! It's good! 2 Long shot, no good. With 2.2 to go. Nebraska 74. Vanderbilt 72. We're going out of our gourds here in Oklahoma City. Holy smokes. Okereke will throw it in. Handed the ball. Gets it in. 2 seconds. Half court shot on the way. Oh my God, it's no good. Oh my Lord. In and out at the buzzer. Nebraska to the Sweet 16. It is a miracle finish for Nebraska. And it was destined to happen. It was destined to happen. Nebraska's going to the Sweet 16. A half-court miss by Tanner, and it was halfway, 3/4 of the way down. It popped out, and I have never broadcast a game like this in my lifetime, and I've done this since 1974.
That was amazing, and Nebraska advances to the Sweet 16. I know it was possible to say it out loud. I didn't know if ever in my lifetime I would say that out loud. Nebraska, I know they've been great this year, but making it to the Sweet 16, Oklahoma City, we talked about it. Would you rather go to North Carolina, Greensville, play there, be a 3 seed, or be a 4 seed in Oklahoma City? Obviously, 15,000 fans showed up and made that PBA South, and Nebraska wins at 74-72 in an amazing game over Vanderbilt. And Nebraska is now headed to the Sweet 16 to play either Iowa or Florida.
Boo.
So you want Florida to just crush?
Oh yeah, I want Iowa out. I want this to be the worst.
Wouldn't you like to beat Iowa again?
No, I want to beat Florida. I want Iowa to have the worst defeat in program history tonight.
Well, from that perspective, I get it. I mean, you'd rather maybe beat the better team, and Florida is certainly that. They're the number 1 seed, and I saw them play in their first round game. They were amazing. I think they won by 700 points. They were amazing. Of course, they won the national championship last year. I don't think they have the guard play of last year, but they have bigs. They have everything. They're like Michigan. They have 3 of everything. Noah's Ark. They are absolutely loaded. I would love to beat them. And Nebraska already beat a team that did beat them.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah. Vandy beat in the SEC tournament. They beat Florida, and they beat them rather handily.
Yeah, I don't remember the score, but
they beat them like 10 plus. I think it was like by 10 points or so.
I'll pull it up here. They beat them, 91-74.
So they beat them by a lot. And I think Florida had won like 11 in a row previous to that game. Florida's loaded. I don't expect Iowa to give them much of a battle tonight, but who cares? I mean, we're still playing in the NCAA tournament. When it was announced Nebraska would play Troy, I was a little worried. And then I saw the first 10 minutes of the game and I go, okay, we've seen teams like this in the non-conference before. Nebraska's eventually going to run away. Even when Troy was hitting threes early on Thursday, it felt like Nebraska was just going to be in control, and they were at halftime, and they gave up a little bit of the lead on Thursday against Troy. But they dominated. They won handily.
They gave up the first 5 points of the second half and then still outscored them by 20 the rest of the half. So
was that the greatest win in NCAA tournament history on Thursday, or was it last night?
From the standpoint of Nebraska, last night was easily the greatest.
But from history, I mean, it was so emotional.
And that's the thing, and this is what Coach Hoiberg talks about that makes so much sense on such a and I don't want to call it a layman's level because he's not talking like technical stuff here, but bottom line is this team has been able to reset after super emotionally high wins all season long. Like he's like, no, they got it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They already know the joy of it after the lap around the Paycom Fieldhouse or whatever it's called, and they get back into the locker room. I will almost I don't know if we'll see the video when they do a cinematic recap or not, but educated guess somebody in that locker room is like, all right, guys, we know Vandy's up next. You know, we're not going to say that McNeese State has no chance, but it's probably going to be Vandy. What do we know about them? Like, and there's still like a couple of guys in the back that are high-fiving, and I have a feeling they turned the page probably within 20 to 30 minutes after that game was over on Friday.
That was the
Thursday.
best I have seen Nebraska play maybe all season. The road win versus Illinois ranks way up there where Jamarcus, I think, had 27.
That was Indiana. They had 27. He hit the game winner against Illinois.
Okay. But he had a lot of points. I think I'm trying to recall stats. But Jamarcus had some great games. And what came to mind in that game is, oh yeah, that reminds me of the team that went 20-0. That reminds me of Jamarcus playing at a high level, Rink playing a high level, and even Frager tailed off in the later portions of the season. All three of those guys played really well. And when they were 20-0, Rink, Jamarcus, and Frager all played really well.
Yeah.
I think Sam has been a constant this year. Sam is what you see is what you get from Sam.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, by the way, Sam. Now
And
your
Charlie.
dad doesn't have to give you or Charlie a birthday present because you won the second game of an NCAA tournament game, which means you're going to the Sweet 16 in Houston and either playing Iowa or Florida next week. But it was Burke's best game of the year.
Yeah.
He was 2 for 2 from 3, 5 of 6 from the floor. He had 4 rebounds. He was really good. It was probably not Sanford's best game, but he was they put almost like 2 guys on him, and he was 5 for 9. He played great. Rink played really well, 5 of 10, hit 3 threes. Hoiberg, that tip in probably saved the day. Rink misses the top of the key 3 late in the shot clock.
Well,
and Sam is there to get the rebound and has the presence of mind to lay it in.
think about it, though. The one bugaboo about Nebraska all season long has been rebounding, especially offensive rebounding. It's just not our biggest strength. And 2 of the last 3 buckets were putbacks.
But
Sam on Rink's miss and then Rink on Sam's driving layup 30 seconds later.
That was one of the things that Hoiberg talked about in the postgame that he thinks needs still to be correct. It was better late in the game. You're right. And I don't think they got a lot of offensive rebounds, especially late.
We had 5.
But
Nebraska
Nebraska has to rebound against a team that's not a great rebounding team. Nebraska has to rebound better than that going forward. Obviously, everybody's a great team, so it doesn't really matter. If you play Florida, you're just trying to hold your head above water. They're so good. But Nebraska was beaten on the boards against Iowa as well. So, hey, we're here. Sweet 16. I can't believe that we're here.
No, I can't either. It's one you and I both have kind of been banished to the basements to watch games. And so I promise I will never let the video come out. But Tracy was wondering how the game was going because it was like 10 o'clock already. Because how long was halftime? 4 hours? Like, oh my goodness.
It felt like a long time.
At any rate, so she hadn't heard me clap, yell, do whatever. Like I'm jumping around, losing my mind, etc. But she turns the camera on and I can hear the TV down in our basement for like if we're gone, the whole system that we've got at home. And it is about 5 seconds before the plays going on in the Vanderbilt end of the their offensive zone. And
by the way, Hoiberg's defense on Tanner on that last possession, phenomenal. I know Nebraska had to switch to a zone, and Vanderbilt hit 13 threes and a bunch of threes of the second half. I think 8 threes of the second half, something like that.
Yeah, and by the way, Nate Linzer's change right there won the game for us. I think if you sit there and say what's the one thing that
Going
allowed
zone,
Nebraska
about 4 minutes left.
About 4 minutes left, it's kind of discombobulated Vanderbilt enough that Nebraska could seize the momentum. But anyway, so it's Vanderbilt. When the guy misses the shot, Sanford gets the rebound and goes down, gives it to Frager. He puts it up. We take the lead. And the ensuing couple of minutes, and Tanner misses the shot. And I am absolutely losing my mind. And it's funny because I'm rewatching it. I'm like, I'm not embarrassed by this. I look like a 4-year-old. I grab a couple of pillows and I'm screaming into them as loud as I can so I don't disturb her and the cats. And it was hilarious to watch, but that video will never make it out.
How did he not make that shot? I mean,
I actually know. Bruce Lee. I saw the video or the photo. Somebody got the photo. Bruce Lee, his ghost came up and kicked that ball right out. I saw the meme. Yeah, it's that's how.
This is the players talking about that final shot and what they were thinking when Tyler Tanner fired it from 60 feet.
My heart sank as that ball went in the hoop and then it went out. And I think it took me half a second to register that it didn't go in, and then I just screamed in elation. But yeah, I thought it was in.
No, I had a perfect shot on it from the bench, and I was like, I just froze for 2 seconds. I thought it went in. I didn't know how to react, and I was just everybody started celebrating. I was like, he actually missed it. So
I just about died. I was I was on the side, so I didn't know the angle it was on. But man, I just want to thank the good Lord Jesus Christ for that one.
Yeah, I just went completely blank. Like Braden said, just on the bench, we had a perfect view. It was right on line, and it just luckily rolled out.
That's what I was thinking, but it looks right on line. That looks pretty good. I wasn't thinking he's going to make it because it's so improbable. But then it hits the backboard, hits the rim, and was down.
Yeah.
It like 2/3 of the way down, it felt like, and then spun out. You just don't see that very often. That'd have been such a heartbreaking way to lose. And then because you almost lost, but then you won, you're still processing.
There was a delayed reaction.
Happened?
Oh, yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah.
Did we win? Does it count partially? Did they give you 2 points for that and we go to overtime or something like that? Yeah. It was just like, I think he's going to make that shot. No, he didn't make that shot. Did he make that shot? I think we won. Did we win? Yeah, we won. We're going to the Sweet 16. It was like that.
Yeah, it was a full 5 seconds, I think, before it finally hit me.
You could tell the crowd just went silent, and that's the loudest crowd in Nebraska basketball history, maybe even more than No Sit Sunday or anything you've seen at PBA.
I was going to say, not being in either one, I can't compare, but what I know is when I saw the videos that were being posted from the Houston and A&M.
Yeah.
The Houston A&M game. There's 11 minutes left, and there is a Husker power chant that goes out to the point where, like, even the guys on the floor as play is going on are like looking around, going, "What in the actual? Like, what is this?"
Right.
And when the band walks in and a "Go Big Red" chant starts out, I mean, the band, Nebraska's band, walked into the arena 4 minutes to play in the Houston A&M game, and the place erupted like Tyler Tanner just missed the 60-footer. Like it was that loud, and no one knew why. And then the "Go Big Red" chant start. That crowd, Husker Nation, oh my goodness. And you know what? You know who gets an F? They get an F triple minus as far as having a clue. The president of the Chamber of Commerce and anybody down in Oklahoma City who failed miserably to make sure that their restaurants and bars had good staff. I don't know, Busch Light on hand.
Doesn't this happen wherever Nebraska goes?
Not to this extent.
Like, they think they know because they've seen other fan bases, but they don't know because they haven't seen Nebraska's fan base.
Well, what I couldn't understand is it's your city is hosting an NCAA tournament weekend, and you don't staff for it.
Well, they thought they did, but then they don't.
I don't know. If
they don't
thought they
understand
did.
Husker Nation. You bring it up, so I'll mention it. They took over Bricktown. Nebraska fans, at least 15,000. I would guess that probably a couple thousand came down just to watch it on TV, just to be around Husker Nation. But it was crazy. And Bricktown bars, as you mentioned, near the Riverwalk, served massive amounts of beers, but
they ran out.
They ran out. They ran out of, I think it was Coors Light and ice at one bar.
Yeah, well,
and Royal
Light,
Crown at another bar.
Yeah, Busch Light didn't last long either because it's not a super popular beer down in Oklahoma City.
Well, they were like, Busch Light. I mean, who drinks that? Well, Nebraska fans drink it.
Yeah, that's about all we drink.
They drink. Nebraska fans tend to drink Busch Light, and I guess they went through 100 cases of beer, 30 cases of Busch Light, which a lot of people. If somebody says, "Hey, Hank, would you order about 100 cases of Busch Light?" And you know that your clientele never drinks one case of Busch Light, you're thinking, are you a loony bird? Why would I do that? And then you see Nebraska fans and you're going, okay, I get it. Now I get it. But that's what happens. Apparently at the Tap House, they ran out of Royal Crown. Thursday night, the first ever tournament win for Nebraska, they had another guy. They had one guy that drank so much beer, he jumped into the canal.
I saw a video on Twitter earlier today. After the bars had closed last night, there's guys running around in their boxers diving into the canal.
And I don't blame him.
Kent said he would jump into the canal at one point.
In his Speedo?
And I don't know if the Speedo would have been allowed, but I know at one point there's a video of him telling people in the crowd, and it was right after one of the games, that he's like, I'll jump in the canal. I'll do it.
This is Mark Byington, the head coach of Vandy, on the atmosphere, the environment.
You know, when you play in an environment like this, I know it had to be incredible on TV. It was an incredible game. I mean, it sucks we were on the side we were on. But, I mean, a high-level game, and I'm sure the crowd lifted them up and had them play. I mean, they played so hard. But second guess where you're put or your seating and all these other things, you know, it just adds to the list of things that you're kind of sitting there thinking, all right, I just want one play back. And we win the game in this environment. And that'd have been even more rewarding. And so, you know, it's hard when you felt like you were that close to winning and didn't.
It's funny because some of the reporters tried to get him to say, do you think it was unfair that you had to go to Oklahoma City?
Well, he already did before the game.
Yeah.
Like he was whining and crying about it on
Friday. I thought he took it well after the game.
I have zero respect for that guy.
Okay.
He was whining and crying and bitching about it on Friday, and in the press conference, his players are like, I can't wait to shut these fans up. And what? Yeah, you know what, Vandy, you guys got what you deserve.
We had to go to the Orange Bowl
by the way,
several times to play Miami in Miami. So there.
Yeah.
Man, I remember thinking back then, like another Orange Bowl against Miami in Miami. And Nebraska fans still outdrew Miami fans. This is Sam Hoiberg on keeping his composure and the team keeping their composure in that game.
That's as much as we've been pressured all season long, and that wears you out mentally and physically. I was feeling pretty gassed there a few times before the media timeout, so it was tough to stay mentally strong, and I think having a crowd like this is super important for carrying us through some of those times. And this is a really mentally tough team, and, you know, we're in one of the last media timeouts. I think we were down a couple of points. I was feeling really tired. I just thought back to the summer workouts, and that's the reason we did this, was for this time of the year to stay mentally tough. Shout out Kurt Joseph for that. But yeah, I mean, it was a physical game, really good team, and I'm just really proud of everyone staying together, and that's what we've done all year.
And I think that's what the crowd actually did, is those guys were gassed. That was a great team that they played in Vandy, and they really pressured them. Sam, I think, was a little surprised. He got his pocket pick. Kale had trouble handling the ball. But their conditioning is top level. And Rick mentioned it as well, that we were gassed, but the crowd kept us in it. Like, just fight through this. Just fight through this, and you can win this thing.
Well,
but it's hard to tell your body that when you have nothing left in the tank and your coach is asking for more from the tank.
Yeah.
We've all been. I mean, you've been there. If you've ever been an athlete or even worked out on a regular basis, trying to get through a workout, this is 10 times harder what they were doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, the closest thing I could say I ever had that was where I just had to fight through it was needed to lose some weight, jumped on a bicycle, started pedaling, and ultimately wound up in the Heat Stroke 100. They start at Sac Museum out by the Missouri or by the Platte River. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to ride 100 miles. But I was like, if I can get to 62.5, 100 kilometers, and that was going to be my goal. It took me 4 hours and 45 minutes, but the last 20 minutes of that to get there was probably there was nothing left, but I somehow managed with whatever song popped into my earbuds. But yeah, the crowd was the earbuds.
That crowd was phenomenal. And I'm wondering, Fred's already said, I know they're in their cars already headed to Houston.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they draw, even Houston's not as easy to get to as Oklahoma City, but I wouldn't be surprised if 10,000 showed up in Houston on Thursday, waiting for a game time.
I know somebody's going to be there for sure.
Who's that?
Jeff Smith.
Oh, that's right. Jeff Smith will probably be there because he's the color voice for Nebraska basketball. And he just saw Nebraska's first win in an NCAA tournament game. He just saw Nebraska go to the Sweet 16. He'll be there in Houston next weekend. We'll talk to him. The color voice of Nebraska basketball, Jeff Smith, is on the way.
Let us do the cooking this year with our Easter to-go meal.
Your weekly rundown of Husker sports with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens.
They've done studies, 60% of the time it works
every time. Husker Rewind on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Okereke will throw it in. Handed the ball. Gets it in. 2 seconds. Half-court shot on the way. Oh, my God, it's no good. Oh, my Lord. In and out at the buzzer. Nebraska to the Sweet 16. It is a miracle finish for Nebraska. And it was destined to happen. It was destined to happen. Nebraska's going to the Sweet 16. A half-court miss by Tanner, and it was halfway, 3/4 of the way down. It popped out, and I have never broadcast a game like this in my lifetime, and I've done this since 1974.
That was Kent Pavelka on the call of the final shot of the game, the man that was the color commentator for that game and all of the Nebraska basketball games this year, former Nebraska assistant basketball coach, Mr. Jeff Smith. Jeff, have you caught your breath yet?
Yeah, we got about an hour's worth of airplane time, and I'm doing laundry right now, watching a little KU St. John's. So we've caught up just a little bit so far.
Real quick, before Tom's got a question, but I'm watching the highlights of the first half with St. John's and Kansas right now, and I can't help but think when I've peeked up at the game, like, I wonder how we'd match up against them. Oh, I don't like the way they do how we'd struggle with, like, I'm trying, I don't break film down, but do you find yourself doing that?
Oh, all the time. And sometimes you watch these teams as athletic as these two are and say, can we really guard them? Can we really run the floor with them? But the thing I would like about playing these teams is neither one shoots the ball great, which is when we defend teams that don't shoot great, we're usually pretty successful. So it'd be fun to try. That's for sure.
I know Nebraska shot about 60% for the bulk of that game. I think they shot 53, something like that at the end of the game, 47 from three. They had 4 players in double figures. Braden Frager's back to being Braden Frager. Price was still Price. But it seemed like Jamarcus was back and Rink was back. It collectively, was that the best game Nebraska has played this year?
Oh, I don't know. I was kind of comparing it to the Illinois game at Illinois. So, that was, I'd put it right there with that one. But that stretch of Creighton, Wisconsin, and Illinois on the road, I would say it's right there with those. But those were 3 really high level games, and this one was right. It's really close. Yeah.
I want to jump and focus on the last 4 to 6 minutes of this game before we kind of back up. I would like to back up at least a little bit to Thursday.
Yeah.
But we kept holding off Vandy, 55-54, 55-55, they miss a free throw. And they finally, I think, hit a 3 to take the lead. And when the lead got to 5, I believe it was 67-62, Nate Linzer goes, hey, there was this guy that coached here before that ran a 1-3-1 zone that was just a nightmare for teams. Let's do that. I don't know if it's the same exact concept, but I mean, Miles was famous for that 1-3-1, but Nebraska changed it up. I felt as soon as they did that, I was like, this is our chance because they're not going to know how to deal with us for a possession or 2. What were your thoughts when he did that?
Yeah, they were running the same set over and over. They were down screening with a big to a big. The other big was popping off that down screen and on balling for either Miles or Tanner, and it was allowing them to get in the paint. So they were getting looks by kicking it out from the paint because we obviously had to help. Those slot drives from the top are so hard to defend because there's no help side and the bigs can't help up too much, so they're going to throw lob dunks. And I was really happy to see it because I knew if nothing else, it would just stop penetration. And then I'm watching the nickel kid run around like we got to know where he is because he's had a great second half. But it's amazing how sometimes you think, oh, a team's shooting it too well to play zone, but it's a different look. They're standing different. They're not coming off their movement. And you said it just right. It took them 2 or 3 possessions. They're looking over at the bench during live play, trying to get a call or figure out what they want to run. It was a great move at a perfect time. It stopped the penetration. And luckily we rebounded well out of it too. That's the other thing you worry about with the zone is giving up rebounds. So great call at the right time. And it was perfect for stopping penetration. I even was thinking today, is that something they learned in the Texas A&M game 2 years ago, that they didn't maybe jump into a zone to stop the penetration and still be able to guard the 3-point line a little bit, you know, and it has worked in some other games this year, so they felt a little more comfortable going to it, I think.
I don't know that we talk enough about Nate Lenzer and his defense. And Nebraska is unique in that Fred kind of handles the offense and Nate handles the defense. Do you like that system where one coach is pretty much focused on, you know, like a football team on the defense, the other on the offense?
Yeah, I do. Because I think you can just focus so much more on what you're teaching and what you're watching when you're watching film, what corrections you're making. And really, I think there's just more emphasized. Back, you know, a long time ago when I was coaching, I was kind of the defensive guy, and Gary Barkin was much more the offensive guy, and Coach Nee kind of went back and forth, a little more offense than defense, but because he loved offense. But it was somewhat similar, except I think back in our day, everybody watched film of offense and defense. I don't know, honestly, don't know how much offensive film Coach Lenzer watches of Nebraska. He just watches the other team's offense and worries about, you know, how they're going to stop the next opponent. He's usually, after a game, he's usually on the bus breaking down the game we just played so he can make corrections and show them the film. And then if it's a longer bus ride or even on the airplane, then he's watching the next opponent offense. And he is a very, very focused coach. And the thing I love about his system is he gives them absolutes. We're absolutely going to do this. Now there's some option things they do or adjustment things they do, but most of their things are, nope, we're going to play it this way. This is how we're going to make it work. And if it's not working, we might make adjustments, but we better try playing harder first. And because I know this works, so that it's so good for the kids because they know exactly what they're supposed to do on all their schemes.
Jeff Smith, the color commentator for Nebraska Basketball Radio, is joining us here on the Summit Lawns Talk and Text line here on KLAN. This is Husker Rewind. Coach, I want to ask you to share what you can of the trip down there and what the feeling on the plane going down, the tension, not tension, the nervousness, not nervousness, calmness, whatever it was on Wednesday leading up to Thursday, getting the game early in the morning, I think probably helped all the nerves. But can you give us a picture of some behind the scenes stuff that was going on when you guys first got down there and then up to that Troy game and a little after?
Yeah, you know, they keep it so they kind of keep the schedule. Well, first of all, it's very consistent in what they do. It wasn't really any different than what we did going out to LA or going to Illinois they are very routine based. I think that's Coach Hoiberg and kind of NBA style. You do your thing and you just keep doing it. And you make corrections after every game. Then you get into the next one. It's just very routine based, but I mean, I think everybody could feel a little more pressure. It was a pretty quiet atmosphere, very serious atmosphere. But we got on the plane and went down and practiced at Oklahoma City University, an NAIA school, right away, even before we went to the hotel. Got to the hotel and then walked to a really nice steakhouse, had a great meal. Next day, got up and got to practice in the arena. And they watch film almost before every practice. It might be where Coach Hoiberg is talking how we're going to attack their defense. Then we'll go practice, and then the next practice will be Coach Lenzer. Here's how we're going to attack there, and then they might have a film session later that night, watching practice, and then more film of the opponent. So they keep a pretty strict routine where you don't really have a lot of time to overthink things because you're going to practice, you're watching film, you're getting treatment. I know they had some cold tubs there in the hotel. They had some massage people come in and work on some of the guys a little bit. And so it's so system based and the schedule is really good that they do give them some downtime, but then it's on to the next thing. And then you just don't get a lot of practice time at the arenas because there's 8 teams there. So you get an hour on the floor, So we went on game day, or excuse me, the day before the game, we went back to Oklahoma City University, practiced hour and a half or so, then went to the arena for the press conferences and all the media stuff, and then we practiced. And basically, they did their shooting on the floor. Nobody gives away their stuff on the floor because it's open practices. So you just want to get a feel for the shooting. I'd say the biggest thing that I noticed when I was coaching, and you still notice it, there's a bigger travel party. There's much more media obligations. That's what makes it feel different than the regular season. Is there's just so many more people around, and there's so much more fan attention, even at the hotel. I mean, they kind of have to keep people off the floors where the players are and where the meeting rooms are, because the enthusiastic fans. But then, like there's a crew from CBS traveling and kind of highlighting us, and so they're with us all the time. You know, I can't imagine how many interviews Coach is doing, and then the players are getting way more interviews. That's the thing that makes it different, and probably makes them, you know, feel a little more pressure, like it's a much bigger game. But having this older team that had, you know, some of them had been there before, and they're very good communicators amongst their group, very tight, you know, good camaraderie. So they were educating the ones that hadn't felt the moment and trying to help them, you know, get a picture of it. And even in practice, you could see that. And so it was really smooth. And I would say with Coach Hoiberg and Coach Linzer's experiences and those players that had been there, they made it a lot better than that I remember it the first year we went. Yeah, for sure.
Color voice of Nebraska basketball, Jeff Smith, former assistant under Danny Nee, head coach at Southeast for years and years as well. Nebraska fans took over that arena. They took over Oklahoma City. Tom Chattel says Nebraska and its fans flipped the narrative for Husker hoops in 3 days in OKC and called it a launching point for Nebraska basketball. Would you agree with that? I mean, you were at the launching point, and it feels like it's been a long time since it's completely launched again, and now it's launched again. Is this the beginning stage of something really big, you think?
I would say yes. I have wondered for 30 years what would have happened to our program if we beat Xavier and get into the second or third round. We had the team that we could have done that. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So I've been living with that ghost for a long time. And now we kind of see that, you know, you get sometimes those tournaments, that first one is the hardest one to win. Fortunately, we had a great matchup, and we had a no-doubter, which was really good, because it took some of the pressure off. You know, at the 10-minute mark, you kind of knew, and I think that helped everybody. And then you then you can relax a little bit. You're in the second round, and I'm telling you, Vandy was really, really good team. But I think this should boost recruiting. We're building a whole new fan base. You see that 10, 12, 14-year-old kids down there. Just my 12-year-old grandson picked Nebraska to win the national championship. It's a new fan base, and it's
why not?
Because how many times have they got to experience this? You know, so they're seeing an unbelievable high character team with great role models on it, and they play winning basketball that looks beautiful when they play it. So I do think this could be the start of something really special here, and especially as much as I believe in this coaching staff.
Jeff, before we let you go, Jeff Smith, color commentator for Nebraska basketball, joining us on the Summit Lawns Talk and Text line. Can you give us a little bit, let's fast forward to right before the Vandy game, and then afterwards, what was the celebration and then the decompression and reset like over the 12 to 16 hours after the game up until when you guys landed today out at the airport? What a scene that was.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge celebration after the first game. I think people are kind of aware of that. It wasn't the water bottles and the jumping up and down as much as probably just more kind of relief, and we did it, and now we can, you know, don't have to hear that narrative anymore, and we know we have a you know, much better team in a day and a half. That was kind of the feeling after that game. Obviously there was some elation, but you just couldn't dwell. They couldn't dwell. I enjoyed it for that whole day and a half, but they couldn't. because they're going back after the game and watching film, they're watching their breakdown and teaching still, and give them just a little preview of Vandy. And then by the next day, it's pretty much all business towards Vanderbilt, knowing that that's all day the day before, I called it a 50-50 game because I was watching more and more film. I didn't get too far ahead of myself, but more and more film. And boy, I watched them play Florida, and that scared me. And I could tell by Coach Linzer, we talked about those guards a little bit, and I could tell that he was extremely nervous about their abilities and how to guard them. So, but then again, they get in their routine and they follow their game day procedures, and it just takes some of the anxiousness and some of the thinking about it. And then the guys pull together in those film sessions and they ask great questions to the coaches, so you know they're focused again on what's next. And I would say those two games were some of the best defense we've played by far, and followed the game plan to a T from what I got to see in their prep. So this staff has the ability to get them to move ahead and look at the future and not look in that rearview mirror, and don't you don't get too high, you don't get too low. And but I think last night's celebration was a little different.
Yeah.
knowing you had some days you knew you had last night. They knew they had last night to really celebrate. And I think Coach encouraged it. Take this with your families are here. Go celebrate this with your families. You have a lot of, fan base here, and, let's have fun with them and sign some autographs and give them some high fives and thank them for coming. And then, woke up this morning and had to get to the plane, and everybody looked a little tired, but sure looked happy. And I know that I think they get the day off today, and then they'll be back to work tomorrow, because we'll be leaving Tuesday probably.
Yep. Their season isn't over. Your season isn't over. On to the Sweet 16 or either Iowa or Florida. How much of a chance do you give Iowa?
They play everybody close. They are one of the slowest playing teams in the country, so they'll muck it up and make it a game, I think. But everybody's asking, who do you want to play? And I know we can beat Iowa. We know that, but we know how close those things were and how physical they are. Florida plays at a really high pace. That would probably be a more fun game to play. So I don't care. Let's just see who it is after tonight and start prepping for them.
Go Big Red. Can't wait.
Go Big Red.
Next Thursday. Yep. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
You betcha. Good talking to you guys.
There you go. Jeff Smith, color voice of Nebraska Hoops, longtime assistant under Danny Nee, head coach at Southeast for years. Just a great basketball coach and fun to listen to on the radio as well. Let's get to break. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, more on the way. It's Husker Rewind.
Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
It is cold. The winter has gone south. I mean, the weather has gone south, or whatever it is. It's cold enough to make a brass monkey clink, I'll tell you that.
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Okereke will throw it in. Handed the ball. Gets it in. 2 seconds. Half court shot on the way. Oh my God, it's no good. Oh my Lord. In and out at the buzzer. Nebraska to the Sweet 16. It is a miracle finish for Nebraska. And it was destined to happen. It was destined to happen. Nebraska's going to the Sweet 16. A half-court miss by Tanner, and it was halfway, 3/4 of the way down. It popped out, and I have never broadcast a game like this in my lifetime, and I've done this since 1974.
Still, wow. So we played it again. Tom and I were talking off the air. We kind of want to talk a little bit about, because we discussed, I mean, we're all, Monday morning quarterbacks, and we can all do things better than the coaches. I was curious as to why we didn't guard the guy throwing the ball in. And like, if it was me, I would have put Leo Curtis there.
I would have too.
To give him two, don't get in his face, like be 3 feet off the baseline. But you're 7'2", dude. Make it as difficult as you can. Make him throw the ball up as opposed to with some force.
I would have put, like you said, Leo Curtis on the ball. But maybe they were thinking like Christian Laettner, that they're going to throw the baseball pass and try to get it to the free throw line, turn, catch, shoot, that type of thing. But or maybe you're just beyond the 3 and you could still make the 3, because that was a shot that nobody makes 60 feet, and yet he almost made it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you do. I know you don't want anybody around Tyler Tanner, because that guy draws fouls just like people draw flies in the summertime at a picnic. I mean, that guy just knows how to draw fouls. It seemed like every time Nebraska got near him, the whistle was blown.
Yeah.
So I understand why Fred was very fearful of even guarding him closely.
And I don't know if he said it, but at the end of the day, bottom line is, you know what? Make sure you do not foul. If he hits a 60-footer to win it, tip your cap to him. And you still tip your cap, because that would have
been so hard to take.
And it would have been, but we didn't have to. That's the important thing.
No, we didn't. And I'm not one of those guys that thinks, oh, well, we got lucky. They would have gotten lucky.
Yes.
Had he made that. And it was so euphoric when Nebraska does win. And then you think, we're in the Sweet 16, and we're going to either play Iowa or number 1 seed Florida. Iowa, I think Jeff made a really good point. Jeff Smith, color voice of Nebraska basketball. They play everyone close. That's kind of what they do. They stall. I mean, there's no way to really stall because there's a shot clock now. But Iowa, as much as you can, keeps every game in the 50s and 60s.
And how bad a whiplash is this for Iowa fans after Fran McCaffrey for all those years? Where, they're scoring 95 a game.
I'm wondering, I know McCallum has, I think, always done that. Wasn't he at UNI before that? He's a really good, McCallum. Yeah, I think he was at UNI, and he brought Sturtz with him, and he's a really good player. And they do a great job of playing that way, but it is so boring to watch.
Yeah. It's kind of like football with Iowa.
But you've said this, and other people feel the same way. They want nothing to do with Iowa.
No, and it's one Kenny that helps us get set up every week. Was in, and him and I have the exact same thought. If we lose in the Sweet 16 and we lose to Florida, I don't care if it's a close game, blowout. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, because I think we're going to go toe to toe with anybody in the country. We've talked about how we see that we have the ability to. I think if we're given that opportunity, if Florida does knock off Iowa, I think we're going to go toe to toe with them. And with what I saw the last 2 games from Nebraska, I'm not going to be shocked if they win. But perchance, if Iowa knocks off Florida and Iowa ultimately eliminates us from the NCAA tournament, that is going to ruin the season for me.
That's silly.
I know it is. It's irrational, but that's how much I hate Iowa.
They made for me, you're playing with house money. It's like, I remember playing blackjack with my brother, and he'd had a few drinks, and he was down to his last $10, $20, whatever it was. He leaves it in the middle, blackjack. He just keeps going. I mean, I'm going, he's up to like, I don't know, $80, $100. I say, Doug, take your money. Let's go home. No, we're playing. So he gets up to like $700 just by leaving it in the middle. That's kind of what I feel like as a Nebraska fan. I'm not going to take my money and go home, but I'm playing with house money. I'm leaving it out there, but I'm feeling really loose. I finally took Doug's money and said, I put it in my pocket and said, we're going. I'm not doing that with Nebraska ball. They're playing with house money. So I feel like, let's go beat Florida. Let's go. I think that they played really loose. That's one of the reasons they won, because they got the monkey off their back versus Troy. They played great. I think one of their best games of the year against Vandy. And there's no reason to assume that they won't play that way against Florida.
The narrative of never won a game and all that, and I get it. It's a talking point, and the national media has been having some, they can't let it go. But at this point, I heard in post-game shows and a little bit that I watched today when they were doing highlights, and this is all national media, every single time, every single announcer on the national media talking about Nebraska. And let's not forget, prior to this season, they were the only, it's like, guess what? No one's forgetting, because that's your opening line every time you guys talk about Nebraska. Like, shut the hell up.
Well, they don't have to say that anymore.
Well, no, they're going to remind you when it's Nebraska, Florida on Thursday. They're going to open it up and say, hey, let's not forget.
But after this season, we're done. Do you agree with Tom Chattel that this is the launching point? Because Jeff made that point. We lost to Xavier. We lost against Penn. Danny Nee had us right on the cusp of greatness.
Just the Xavier game, that one game, because you got Shaq the next game.
Yeah.
I think Rich King was far more athletic than Shaq at that time.
And Danny had all those great teams even after that, the 1991 team, but could not get over that hump. And what was it? 6 losses in the NCAA tournament? 8.
Yeah. We're not 2-8.
We're but 6 of them from knee? Or no? Yeah. So he thought that could have been the launching point, and now this will be the launching point for Nebraska basketball.
The Colin Rice, the other, I can never remember his name, the other one that we've got signed.
Lanier, Jacob Lanier.
Jacob Lanier. Those guys coming in, and I still think Ahmad Hudson, 2027.
I don't want to sign too many freshmen, though.
Well, no. He's going to be a 2027 guy. But he's a 4-star basketball guy. He's a 5-star tight end. I get it. LSU's his dad's school. I get all of that stuff. But if you are that kind of an athlete, if Matt Rule figures out a way to show what we can do, or what he thinks he can do with Nebraska football this year, better than the 5.5 wins that's expected. And I kind of wonder, there's another 5-star, a guy that is going to reclassify to 2026, possibly, that he's like the number 2 guy in the 27 class that's contemplating coming to Nebraska. That these doors are we've been opening the doors for every 5-star. I mean, Omaha Baloo, we got him to come to town, and the very first thing he said was, you realize there's no chance in hell I'm playing here, right?
And where is he? Because I know he chose Iowa State, but I don't think he's at Iowa State anymore.
I don't even know.
I don't even know where he is. Yeah. But I'm just thinking about launching point, and is this the launching point? You're in the Sweet 16. You got Frager. You got Sanford. I think Sanford's going to be back. Unless he's in the first round. I don't think he's a first-round draft choice in the NBA.
Right now, he's projected mid to upper second round.
Would he go as a second-round draft pick?
If
I don't know.
Price Sanford scores 36 against Florida, and on 9 of 12 threes, he breaks the single-game record, and Nebraska goes to the Elite 8, this is very possible, by the way.
I heard.
So yeah, I could see him going. But
I heard Robin Washut say he'll be the number 1 football or basketball, the number 1 guy on campus as far as NIL is concerned. Right about $1.5 to $1.8 million.
Yeah.
And probably a combined 2.5 to keep Frager and Sanford. But that's a nice start. Then you still have Burke coming back. Maybe you get Oogie coming back. You already have Kale and Connor Essegian. That's not a bad little.
Well, and there's a transfer you and I have heard about from a fellow Big Ten school of a former Omaha prep standout that is like, hey, I might want to come play at the party.
Bynum. I mean, Bynum's really good. He's played for Ohio State, but he might come. I mean, who knows? He's from Omaha. I think Nebraska has a chance to do stuff in the portal that Iowa State used to do when Fred was at Iowa State.
From the flat out overall talent standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that really hurt Fred when he came to Nebraska versus Iowa State. They were getting their pick of the litter, partly because nobody was getting transfers like Iowa State was. And now everybody goes to the portal. But if you make a Sweet 16 and you make the NCAA tournament on a regular basis, and Nebraska's been successful 3 straight years, 20 wins, you're going to start getting in on some names. And we already have, as we mentioned, Colin Rice, the Gatorade Player of the Year, by the way, in Iowa.
It dropped 50 a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Omaha Blue, by the way, is the 6th leading scorer for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons at a whopping, where'd it go? 6.1 points a game.
See? So he's a 5-star that turned out to not be a 5-star.
At 2.3 rebounds a game.
So we've seen that even when 5-stars end up at Nebraska. Good players, not always great players. Let's get to break. Come back with more. Our 6 o'clock guest, Andy Markowski.
Heck yeah.
Some great teams with Danny Nee back in the 90s. We'll talk Husker basketball. More of Husker basketball all the way next.
Oh, they don't have him yet. Look at Tommy Frazier. How many tackles can one man break? Touchdown.
Yet young enough to remember what they had for lunch.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
4 on the shot clock. In the paint. Shot on the way. No good. Rebound Nebraska. Huskers have it. 9 seconds left to go. Wow. Cross the timeline. Price. To Frager. Layup. Yes! Yes! It's good. 2.2. It's good. 2 Long shot. No good. With 2.2 to go. Nebraska 74. Vanderbilt 72. We're going out of our gourds here in Oklahoma City. Holy smokes.
Whoa. And Nebraska, of course, Tanner misses the 60-footer at the buzzer. Nebraska goes on to win. That was right up with the heart attack call of Jamarcus Lawrence at Illinois, wasn't it?
Yeah, it gets funnier every time we hear it going out of our gourds.
Great and fantastic Kent Pavelka, voice of the Huskers. And this guy played for Danny Nee back when Kent was still doing the games. Kent's been doing it for 40 years. Andy Markowski, two-time captain for Nebraska Hoops. Nebraska in the Sweet 16. Did you think you'd be saying that this year at the start of the year, Andy?
Well, certainly not at the start of the year. And then, obviously we ventured into the top 5, which, you thought if they could get a, 2 or 3 seed, that would give them a chance to maybe do it. And then the matchups came out, which, I didn't not like Vanderbilt, as they hadn't, really been there either. So, no, I think I was like the rest of us. We were just hoping for a good season. But then as it played out, certainly, thought this was in the realm of possibilities.
Andy, what are your thoughts going back to like the memories from when you were playing? You guys are all brothers, man. It doesn't matter the team, the alumni base and the former players that were there that did some social media stuff and all that. What was it like for you on Thursday afternoon as the clock ticked away? I mean, regardless of 10 minutes to go, we all knew we were going to win. But when that clock hit 0, you've been wearing that stupid, 0 NCAA wins chain around your neck too. What did it feel like when it was no longer a viable fact?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's been 30 years of having to answer that question, and it's not embarrassing, but certainly it's a stat that you weren't proud of, because we had some good teams and unfortunately just couldn't get it done. So it's relief, it's excitement. I do really like this group. I've gotten to know, Fred and staff, and you're just proud to see a really good group of guys finally get that accomplished, and then to be able to, to double down and then advance to the Sweet 16. You put that, in the rearview mirror now, and hopefully this program can go to new heights.
Andy Markowski, two-time captain in the Danny Nee era, late 90s. There are a lot of guys that played well yesterday, 4 guys in double figures, a lot of guys that played great the entire weekend in the 2 wins. Can you name an MVP? Can you pick one guy?
And I think you guys asked me the question a couple months ago, who is the best player? And, it's hard to really say, because they all have unique value to making this thing work. And, they've all had, times when they had to step up, and you look at Sanford was unbelievable in the first round, right? Took the pressure off of the rest of the guys by making a lot of shots. And then, Rink gets them out of the gates yesterday, but then you have, 2 offensive rebound putbacks, which, they haven't rebounded the ball all year. So, it's just a really good group. They play together, they all have skills that really mesh, and Fred does a great job of pulling it all together. And I look at the basketball, I don't know how they won yesterday. I mean, they give up 10 threes in the second half. They turned the ball over, a lot of pick sixes. They took Sanford away, but just the will. They just stayed the course. They made some adjustments, and I think all of them had to play, from Frager to Mass put back to Hoiberg's put back to, Fred finding Sanford some freedom and getting him to the foul line late. Berke has a layup from a high-low pass to Ring. So, they all made a play late to really help them, get to that Sweet 16.
Andy, you've seen this before. We've seen it a lot this year. What a shooter can mean for the entire offense. He shot on the final play where 2 guys went at Sanford. He passes it to Frager. He makes the layup. That happened time and time again. The teams respect him so much that other guys get free. I think sometimes we undervalue him if it's possible.
Yeah, Price obviously is the elite shooter, which, you have to have. He's the top of the scouting report, right? Like you have to locate him. If you don't, things can happen like the first round game where he just, makes enough threes to put the game away. But credit him. I mean, he's a very unselfish player. He had enough space to pull the trigger and shoot that, right? I mean, if that was his mentality, but he's a a great teammate, and to your point, allows other players to have success because of how well and how hard teams are having to guard him. But, then the guys will really find him in transition and really do a good job of screening to get him open, right? So it works both ways, with the teammates being appreciative of him and trying to make sure he can get open to get open shots as well.
Tom, I'm going to jump back to the question you asked about the MVP. And they're really, I don't know who you would say is that guy. What I am going to say is the Big Red Swarm, I think, is the MVP of this last weekend. The 15 to 20,000 Nebraska fans that went down there and packed that arena.
Yeah.
The players on the court did what they did. But to the comments to some of the players, I don't know if we get it done if it's not for this crowd. I mean, we're out of gas, but they're saying, no, you're not. And we didn't have a choice but to answer. And I'm still amazed, even though I'm a part of it. I live it. I've lived it my entire life. Nebraska fans are absolutely the best that there are anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I was down on Thursday. My son and I went down. I unfortunately had to be back Friday, but yeah, to that point, I mean, you're talking a slim margin to win the Vanderbilt game, right? I mean, could you influence a defensive stop? I mean, did they influence, referee putting pressure, by, really overreacting to every violation, every non-call, right? I mean, so you don't know exactly what the point differential was with the crowd, but to your point, when it's a one possession game, it certainly played a huge part, and it made the other team uncomfortable. Yeah, I thought Troy were on their heels from the start, right? They were not ready for that environment. The SEC probably prepped Vanderbilt to be able to go on the road, but it's still unexpected. They had to answer the question, they had to deal with the crowd, and then just the ability to ride that energy late when you were down 5 with, I think, 250 to go, and just have the will to fight and the fan base to stay behind them. So, yeah, it was unbelievable atmosphere Thursday. Obviously, I've talked to a lot of people that were there Saturday, and just a special memory that a lot of people have now.
Let's talk about what you just said. 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go. You're down 67-62. Nate Linzer makes the call. Let's go to a 1-3-1. I use the term because I stole it from whoever I read earlier that put it in their article today. But that defense discombobulated Vanderbilt for a couple of possessions, allowed Nebraska to catch their breath and just go win the damn game.
Yeah, they had no choice. To be honest, Vanderbilt had really done a good job of keeping the ball in the middle of the third, spreading it with 2 shooters, and we could not switch on their ball screen. And they got, they made 10 threes in the second half. So, was it a difficult decision to go to something that you've only used a handful of times? But at that point, they didn't really have another option. And, they were really aggressive in the 1-3-1, and you could tell that Vanderbilt hadn't really prepped for it, right? I mean, they were just, confused on what they wanted to do. And then to make it even more complicated, Nebraska's the last possession, we started a 1-3-1 for about 10 seconds and then went man. So the combination of all of that, really got Vanderbilt on their heels and, got enough stops to give us a chance to win the game.
Nebraska started 20-0 and then went 6-6, a bit of a lull, and maybe some fans lost a little bit confidence. Sam has always been Sam this year. What you see is what you get pretty much every game, and Sanford has been that way. There was a time, though, when Nebraska was struggling offensively, especially, that Lawrence, Mass were not quite the same, and you could probably throw Frager in there as well. It feels like when those guys – it has to be a team collectively that plays like they did last night to win the rest of the way, right?
Yeah, I don't read into the 6-6. I mean, they played some really good teams late. They lost on the road to Iowa and UCLA, which both are still playing, right? I mean, you lose to Purdue twice. So I do think that the teams that we were playing made us look like maybe we weren't playing great basketball. The other thing, Mass, is ill. It took him, I think, 2 weeks to kind of get back. Frager goes through a sprained ankle, and a lot of people don't know this. Lawrence is really banged up. He's got a bad knee. He's got a hurt shoulder. Like he's not in the newspaper. Why is me and feel bad for me? So those guys are grinding out a really hard season. But to your point, yeah, I mean, they can see the finish line now. You know, I think the balance, like I said, we had 3 in double figures. I think 2 had 8, 9. So you almost have 5 in double figures. If you can do that, you're going to be hard to guard and give yourself a chance to win. Even Mast hitting those 2 threes early, I thought opened it up for some of the slips and some of the things that got Frager and Sam to the basket last night. So it all needs to fit together. But, you know, now your margin's even smaller. And, you know, I'm assuming Florida will beat Iowa tonight, and you have a chance to play the defending national title in the Sweet 16, which is going to take your best effort to continue to advance.
Andy, I want to ask you about that before we let you go. Let's make the assumption that Iowa goes down, hopefully with the worst loss in program history later tonight, and we get a chance to take on, you know, the top of the mountain right now. They're in the tournament again. They won the tournament last year. They are the top of the mountain. Have you seen Florida play, and how do you think Nebraska will match up against them?
Yeah, I've you know, obviously I haven't seen a ton of Florida, but know their roster, watched them a little bit, and they're really big. Are they beatable? Yes. I mean, you know, Vanderbilt had them down 24 just less than 2 weeks ago, right? Like, you know, and now Vanderbilt's a little different than us in terms of how they pressure, because Florida does not have great guard play. But Florida, those bigs are going to really struggle getting out and guarding us. If you go look at the Vanderbilt box score, which I took a peek at this morning, Vanderbilt's bigs made 9 threes in that game. Just because Florida's so big, they're not very mobile. They have a hard time getting out and defending out on the floor. Now they've shot 500 free throws or made 500 free throws. We've shot 490, right? So, you know, they're top 3 in the country in rebounding, which is our weakness. So there's certainly things that they do that are going to present challenges for us. But the one thing that I've watched it since Nate Linzer has been here, if your leading scorers are front court players, we tend to do a really good job of neutralizing, just because we naturally double, you know, things that we do within our defense every game that those bigs don't always see. So we tend to have success in their front line. Their 3, 4s, and 5s all lead them in scoring. So, you know, I think the matchup is okay. You know, certainly they don't have great guard play like they had a year ago. But you know, it's going to be a really big challenge that we'd probably have to make 13, 14 threes, which, you know, this group is capable of doing.
I want to ask a big picture question about the Big Ten. It's been a long time since the Big Ten has won an NCAA Tournament national championship. Michigan did that in 2000. They're 11-2 so far in the tournament. The only losses, Ohio State and Wisconsin going into today. Purdue won today. So you got 8 teams in the Sweet 16, I believe. Nebraska, Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue have already won. Then you've got Iowa and UCLA with a chance as well. Is this the year you think the Big Ten will win it all?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big drought, right? I do think since NIL and some of the changes, the Big Ten rosters have gotten better with pro talent. You know, and I think, you know, to your point, having 5 already in the Sweet 16 speaks to that. I have Purdue beating Illinois in my bracket before it started. So I'm a big believer in the Big Ten. I do think, you know, the teams are good enough. You know, I think teams are big enough. The guard play is now good enough in that league. But you have, you know, again, you have to get a little lucky. Things got to go your way. You know, no one's out west has won a national title since Arizona 20-some years ago either, right? So that just tells you how hard it is to win one of those things. But I do think the Big Ten is well positioned. They've got good seeding this year, and, you know, having 5 of the 16, you know, gives them a real shot to get a couple to the Final Four, and hopefully this is the year. Love having you on. We appreciate the time, Andy, and go Big Red. All right, thanks, guys. What a great time.
Thanks, Andy.
There you go. Andy Markowski, 2-time captain for the Huskers back in the late 90s, played under Danny Nee on some really great teams, probably teams that were more talented than this year's team. I think the 90-91 team was more talented than this year's team. Were they a better team? More athletic. This one may be more skilled, passing, shooting. But overall, that 90-91 team was ridiculous. Yeah, they had it all. It would be fun to watch that game if you could go back in there
somehow figure out,
and somehow
just
figure
like
out
having Arnie, Jack, and Tiger all play in their prime together. And see
I
who
would
wins.
give a lot of money to see that being played at PBA or the Devaney Center. I don't really care. Danny Nee coaching on one side, Fred Hoiberg on the other side. It wouldn't be fair these days. His guys are a lot younger than those guys right now, but that would be so much fun to watch. Again, more talented. How many guys on this team will play in the NBA? Maybe one. Rich King was in the NBA.
I will guarantee you there are 2 players on this roster currently that will play in the NBA for sure.
Guaranteed?
Guarantee.
Okay, Price and who else?
Braden Frager.
Yeah, Frager certainly has that chance. I mean, he's a better athlete, actually, than Price.
Yeah.
But he's so young, and the ceiling is so high for him. I mean, the ceiling is just to the moon. I mean, that guy probably has more athletic talent than anybody on this team, but he also has some of the skills that you would want. I mean, that he can get to the rim. He's one of the few guys that can get to the rim at any time. He's a great free throw shooter. I think he's got a jumper that's only going to get better and better and better. He might be one of those guys as he gets bigger and stronger that is almost unguardable by the time he's a junior or a senior.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch.
He's going to be fun. You're probably right. He is an NBA prospect for sure. I hope he doesn't get drafted. 6th man of the year.
Maybe not this year, but he will.
And I hope Sanford doesn't either. I mean, it's almost where you're cheering against the guy so he'll come back to you. I hope that happens. Nebraska basketball, I think, possibly has reached that launching point, and we could see some good things for a long time. We'll see. Let's get the break. Come back with more. Jessica Coody of the Husker Radio Network is on the way. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, more on the way.
Recap of Husker sports.
Jones runs behind a blocker, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 15. He's gone. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3
Welcome back.
KLIN.
Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. It's been a fun show. Of course, Nebraska reaches the Sweet 16. We'll either play Iowa or Florida in Houston next weekend as we welcome in Jessica Coody, one of the voices of the Husker Radio Network. She was there in Oklahoma City, did all the interviews around the fans all weekend. Have you ever seen an atmosphere like that? You've been to OKC a bunch of times. Obviously, you grew up in Oklahoma. You went to a bunch of Oklahoma games on the professional level. Have you seen an atmosphere like that, even in a professional game?
Not at a neutral, quote unquote, neutral site. I mean, it sounded like Pinnacle Bank Arena. And, you know, it was funny because I was having some conversations with some folks because I was at the Western Conference Finals last year when the Thunder won. And that first game, it was loud and it was comparable. And even, you know, some local writers, some local media folks were there and said that it was comparable to like a regular season Thunder game, but maybe not quite a playoff game. But yesterday, it matched a playoff atmosphere for sure. So, you know, it gets pretty rowdy down there for a Thunder playoff game, but, you know, that was quote unquote a neutral site game. And so, you know, I talked to Chris Webber after the game and I kind of asked him that. I mean, how would you describe what we just experienced? And he goes, you can't because it's never happened. You know, how would you describe something that it's never taken place before? So it was incredible. I'll never forget it. It was definitely one of the more memorable sporting and the game yesterday, but then just the overall experience and then getting to do it in my home state, home city, and where I grew up, I guess, and a lot of families were in the building and around. I get to experience Nebraska and were kind of texting me, and I'm so proud. I was so proud of Husker Nation and that they were kind of put on display and that people were so in awe of what we get to experience all the time. So yeah, so many things. And then, you know, getting to experience Kent Belka and his kind of journey over the last few days. It was a really special five days for sure.
Jessica Coody joining us on the Summit Lawns Talk and text line. I was going to go right to the icon that is Kent Pavelka and his misery of 50 years of being the broadcaster for a basketball program that you know, has fans that want to will it to every win and every game, no matter who they're playing. And they just hadn't gotten it done on a big stage until Thursday. You were right next to him, I believe, with one of the videos that went out online of his call of the win against Troy, being a guy that had a headset on and called championships and stuff like that. When I was doing it, his emotion that you captured to me was stunning. Walk me through what that was like for you and the relationship that you've got with Kent.
Oh, special. He's been so incredibly kind to me, and it's been so fun to kind of get a kind of first front row seat at his experience of this. And you know, it's we're so strict on the NCAA who can go down there, and they usually have a segment at the beginning, and so they couldn't get anybody else down there. So I've been fortunate. I got to join them for these last couple of broadcasts on the pregame show, and then halftime yesterday. And so I sat right next to Kent. Yeah, I sat next to him both games, and so the first day, and you know, just I couldn't hear really either day. And again, you know, being that we couldn't stream or anything, and the way that the setup was, they would had to stretch the headset. So once the crowd started, I could sometimes hear him when it was maybe not at the top decimal, but when it was really going, I couldn't even hear and he was sitting right next to me, and I couldn't even hear what he was saying. And you know, he was getting pretty emotional, especially yesterday, and I still couldn't hear him, but I could see it.
Yeah.
And you know, I think when there are times like in close games that Kent really stands up and he gets really going, in the game against Troy, he didn't do that as much, and so I couldn't hear the emotion as much, and so I was I didn't really hear it until I got to go back and kind of when we were syncing it up and kind of get to hear like what it was with what I was seeing. And so I guess for me, when he got, I thought he was more emotional. There was a moment when Nebraska really extended the lead, but I think it was like 12 minutes in the second half. And boy, he just sat back. And then I think Troy had called timeout, and Nebraska hit back-to-back threes, and the lid was really coming off, and he sat back in that timeout, and I think he was just really taking it in because he knew it was going to happen, and he had tears, the emotion in his eyes, and so to me, I thought that was even more emotional than what we saw at the end. But you probably couldn't see it because it was during a timeout. I think he was really able to take it in there, but yesterday was unbelievable too. Just getting to see, so I guess I'll go back after Nebraska wins the game, obviously makes history, and we're going to do a segment for Sports Nightly, and I'm trying to take him because we can't record in the arena again. NCAA is really strict on their policies, and so we're walking, and the Husker fans are still in the arena because there's another game being played after us. And I'm talking from the front row to the top of the rockers that Husker fans are still there. When they see him walking, they give him a standing ovation. And he's just kind of standing there taking it in. And then he's signing autographs. And so then we go do a segment. And then he's, people are wanting to take selfies with him. And what I thought was cool, too, is that there were young kids coming up to him and, "Kent, we love listening to you." And, when people are trying to say radio is dying or whatever, but, the fact that this young generation is falling in love with listening to a radio broadcast and, this basketball team, it just was so neat to see. And, kids coming up to him of all ages in the lobby, wanting to take selfies with them. I mean, it was really, really, really special. And then going back to yesterday, and again, I couldn't hear. I imagine the post-game show was lit. I'll have to go back and listen to it, but I'm sure it was just off the hook because, again, it was the players were going around and he's hugging them, and then the crowd is chanting Kent's name, and he's trying to take it all in, and people want selfies. It was, I think people appreciated he's just poured his heart and soul into it, and you can hear it by the way he calls the broadcast that he feels like the fans do. And so I think they have appreciation that he's connected in that way, and it's been a long time coming. And so it was just really neat to see. And then he's out at the piano bar getting on stage, and they're playing the Husker Fight song, and people are chanting his name again. So it was really cool. And I think it's also cool how much the team appreciates him as well. So. A lot of cool experiences over the last few days with Kent as well.
Well, it's been 40 years that he's been broadcasting Nebraska football. He goes back to the Cipriano era, and he's seen it all. But what he hasn't seen is an NCAA tournament win until this past Thursday. And his speech as they wind down the clock about, going home from all those Big 8 to Big 12 tournament games, and wishing you were in the tournament and knowing that you were a couple of wins short, and you could feel the emotion. I thought it was great, and it really captured the moment. But Tom Chattel wrote about it. But maybe this now, obviously we're going to stop talking about the fact that they're the last Power 4 team to have not won an NCAA tournament game. And maybe now this is a launching point for Nebraska basketball to the point where it can become Iowa State or who knows? Maybe Kansas. It could become something pretty special, especially in this day and age of NIL, where you can go get players at a higher level. That maybe Nebraska has reached something now that they're in the Sweet 16 that we can rely on year in and year out. That, hey, they're always going to have a chance. Not always, but they're going to have a chance to make the tournament year after year.
I mean, I think you see the interest of Husker Nation that they have a product out there that fans are going to buy into it, obviously. And, I think you've seen investment from the athletic department. I mean, you're going to have it does in this day age, as much as people don't want to hear that. In the rev share and NIL era, They're going to have to, spend some money to not only go get some of these pieces, but also retain them. You don't think people are coming after Braden Frager left and or Bryce Stanford, with some of these quote unquote blue blood basketball programs that basically pour all their money into basketball, men's basketball, that have millions and millions of dollars invested in their men's basketball rosters. You don't think people are coming after them. But I think that's where, these guys are really invested into this program. And that's where Coach Whitberg has talked about kind of realized going back to that roster with Sam Griesel and Juwan Gary and Emmanuel Bandamel, and just kind of finding the right culture and the buy-in in that locker room. And so I think he's got that recipe. And so, yeah, I mean, you're still going to have to obviously spend some money with the roster. Absolutely. But I think we've now kind of tapped into maybe a sleeping giant with what could be done here at Nebraska with the basketball program. Absolutely. And Troy Jannon is going to make sure that this basketball team has the everything that they need to continue to succeed and build this roster. And I think what's exciting too is that you lose some really important pieces, which we still want to enjoy this week. But your rink mass is absolutely critical to what this team has done this year, and Sam Hoiberg as well. But you get Price back, you get Braden Frager back, and Oogie. It was going to be a really big key piece to this year. They loved what he brought and his skill set, and he's a little bit like Rink in the way that he can stretch the floor, and he's a really good passer too. But he just couldn't get healthy. And so there's another piece that hopefully they'll be able to get back healthy and get back next year. And, Kale's coming back. And so you've got a lot of good pieces, Burke. And so a lot of these pieces will be back, and you're replacing a couple that absolutely have been huge and monumental. But I think hopefully you now have the investment, hopefully, and, the resources, but also just, what player watching last night and kind of seeing what was done doesn't want to come play in front of a crowd like that that's going to travel like that? It's a lot of volumes too. So there's a lot of things, but I do think it is sustainable. It's hard to do. It's hard to win like this, but I think Coach Hoiberg has found the recipe, and I don't know why players wouldn't want to come play here. I have no idea why they wouldn't. And I think it's going to be pretty fun because I think that they've got the recipe, and hopefully, it continues to build from here.
Well, we're not done yet this year. We got a game on probably Thursday. Do we know for sure that it's Thursday?
Yeah, it's Thursday because that regional is Thursday.
Okay. We more than likely wind up playing Florida. What's your week going to look like, and the team's week, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, so we'll leave again on Tuesday. So going to try to get some football stuff done tomorrow because we do have a backup plan. I've said it all along. Hopefully I'm not here for the spring game. So Jeremiah Searles is going to be stepping in for me. And then if for some reason if I'm back, we'll have two of us that hopefully but I'm hoping and we're planning that I'm not going to be here. But I do have a couple of obligations that I do have to go for, like the pregame show and stuff. So I'm going to try to get that done tomorrow. I'm doing some laundry and we're packing, but we'll hit the road with the team on Tuesday, and I think they'll probably practice again. Done this all year, and they've been that's what's been about this team. They're very business-like. They've gone about it the same way, and they've been able to move on. They're very mature, but we'll practice in the morning, I would assume, and then we'll get down to Houston. Maybe probably do a film, maybe a shoot around somewhere. And then Wednesday is your standard. You got lots of media availability, and you'll have a shoot around at the arena. And then Thursday we'll find out the game time, I think tonight as well, once we find out who we're playing. So so then Thursday will be game time. So we'll quick turnaround, but this is that time of year. I did this in, it's funny, as I posted this when the trend was happening about the decade trend 2016, and I followed a Oklahoma team to the Final Four in 2016. So crazy that it's coming to fruition here with a special run with this team. But I did it 3 weekends in a row, and there's nothing better than having to just come home, do your laundry, and pack your suitcase again for the team, for the people that are traveling like this. It's the best thing ever. So hopefully it's another weekend. Let's just keep it rolling,
Yep. Do you think we'll get 10,000 for Houston Husker fans?
I was just talking to Seamus about this because apparently they said that the Houston fans bought up quite a bit already, but they have a kind of a small arena, and I don't even know if they sell out every time. I think their arena is like 8,000 to 10,000. So even if they have 10,000, I would imagine I gotta imagine it's going to be 8 to 10. I would think at the very least.
My biggest memory, Jessica, is Nebraska fans taking over South Bend and Notre Dame's football stadium. It was incredible. There were more Husker fans in 2001 when Eric Crouch won the national title in their stadium, an iconic stadium, than there were Notre Dame fans. They'll buy up that. What I'm saying is Husker fans will buy any ticket. It doesn't matter the price. They'll buy it from you.
Well, I agree, but there's also other fan bases that are guaranteed to get some that I think there's some basketball schools that are going to be down.
Oh, I agree.
Florida, and Houston that's a hometown school. So if they're not selling their tickets because they want to be there for their team too, but I do think Husker Nation will be there and will buy the tickets that are available. It's just a matter of what tickets are going to be available.
Yeah.
I do think there will be, if it's possible, there will be 8 to 10 at least, I would think. But we'll see what tickets are available. But I do think it will be a heavy Husker crowd, that's for sure.
I've enjoyed your interviews. Great stuff with all the players and the coaches and the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's been fun, and we'll continue to listen and watch this weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been fun, and I'm ready to do it again this week.
There you go. Jessica
Thanks,
Coody
Jessica.
Of the Husker Radio Network. She's been all over the place. She's on Kent's pregame show, comes on at halftime, does all the interviews. I loved her interview with Chris Webber. Great stuff. Nebraska basketball, not dead yet. They're going to play the winner of Florida versus Iowa. Mike says doesn't want to see Iowa.
Nope.
Wants to see Florida. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm just so happy that Nebraska is still playing basketball because it didn't look like late in that game with about 4 minutes left to go that they would be playing basketball, but they are.
Here's what I can tell you. If Nebraska beats Florida and somehow knocks off Houston, or I actually think Illinois is going to upset Houston, and they get to the Final Four, I do not think we are going to bode very well against St. John's, because I think St. John's is going to the Final Four. Kansas made a run back, but it's over. St. John's 67, Kansas 65, whale of a game. That St. John's defense is every bit as good as the defense Nebraska plays.
Well, and they're really, really good. But so is Houston. Houston's salty as well. Let's get to break and come back with more. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. It's Husker Rewind.
Husker Sports.
Kaboom! And their body bumping and away.
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. Final segment here on a Sunday. Hope you're having a great day. Hope your bracket isn't too busted. I've got one that I did just kind of fun, off the wall.
The only team that
picks.
really busted me, semi-busted me, is Wisconsin, losing a High Point. I had them in the Elite Eight this year.
Yeah, I had High Point winning that game.
Did you really?
Yeah, I have one that through the first 36 games, I'm 31-5.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the
I think
one
I've lost
I've
6
entered
or
in.
7.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it's only 1 point, though. I mean, everybody thinks that they're a big deal if they can pick the upsets in week 1 or
in round one.
In round 1. But if you have Duke, Florida, if you have the 1s and 2s intact, you're okay.
Well, especially this year.
Michigan, Duke, Florida, Michigan, that type of thing.
If the higher seeds win out, it will be, I believe, 14 of the 16 1 through 4 seeds made it to the Sweet 16. With Kansas going down, St. John's getting in. There's now 2 non-top 4 seeds in the Sweet 16. So if everything else goes chalk tonight, that's a boring tournament as far as upsets go. Not as far as fantastic games, though. The one that we just kind of half watched with Kansas and St. John's was brilliant. And
St. John's plays defense.
You'll have to find me. And this isn't Nebraska biased. You find me a better game than Nebraska Vandy in the tournament so
there
far.
hasn't been one.
I mean, and I'm just saying that. Hey,
High Point was pretty good beating Wisconsin.
True.
But some of the shots they were making, circus shots.
The way this game played out with Nebraska and Vandy, though, with Vandy going up by 5 with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left and Nebraska coming back and winning it, to me, that whole thing, this will be one, to me, that game will be one of the top 3 or 4 games in the tournament this year. Just unbelievable play.
Today, you got Tennessee over Virginia, 54-48. Florida is behind. Iowa's taking a 10-point lead. A 10-point lead with 7 minutes left to go in the first half, 23-13. Wow. That would be upset city, and Mike would be very angry.
I'd be angry if we would wind up losing to Iowa, but Florida's going to come back and dominate.
Purdue over will they have any time? The way Iowa plays, they melt the clock. Purdue over Miami, 79-69. So Purdue advances to the Sweet 16. Iowa State, no problem over Kentucky, 82-63. Kansas, as you mentioned, fell to St. John's, 67-65. Arizona has Utah State later tonight. UCLA with UConn. UCLA's played some good basketball. Texas Tech and Alabama should be fun later tonight. 5 teams so far from the Big Ten in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, so far. And one of the other ones, I don't recall you mentioning this, but 3 seed Virginia is down to 6 seed Tennessee, 54-48 with 11-48. Did you?
Yeah.
I must have been looking at something else when you said it, but I was just like, oh, smokes. That's interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to be watching. I'm going to get out of here and when we leave in about 15 minutes and watch that Iowa-Florida game.
Oh, yeah.
Iowa knows how to bore you to death. Their football team is basically their basketball team. How often have we said about Iowa football? They don't mind punting. They don't mind just hanging around. If it's 3-3 in the fourth quarter, all the better for Iowa. That's kind of how they play basketball.
Yeah, it is now. It wasn't before.
It wasn't. Fred McCaffrey was up and down, but this year McCollum is really, man. They play good basketball though. I don't know if I would call it good, but they win at Iowa.
We do want to mention Nebraska up in Michigan win 9-5 today, so they win the series 2-1. Softball rolling, win streaks at 14 or something right now.
Baseball is playing good baseball.
Yeah,
They're
are
18-6. They're 5-1 in the league. They beat Wichita State in the midweek. They lost that first game on Friday night 2-1 in a pitcher's duel, but then came back the next day and win. They run rule Michigan 10-0, and they get 5 in the ninth today to win 9-5. So baseball is playing really well.
Oh, they are
really well.
So you had mentioned something. Do you want to do the who would play?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic because we keep saying, oh, there should be a movie about Nebraska basketball, but you couldn't do it because nobody would believe it. Well, it's really happening. I don't think it's a dream. And if it is a dream, don't wake me up.
Yeah.
Nebraska's in the Sweet 16. They were picked 14th in the league to start the year. They won 20 straight games to start the year. Yeah, they suffered, but any good movie is going to need a little drama. They went 6-6 down the stretch. So you had the questions, are they really as good as we thought? And then they get beat by Purdue in the Big Ten tournament first round. But then Purdue turns out to be Purdue, the team that everybody thought would win the Big Ten. And now they're coasting through the NCAA tournament. I think with Kent being one of the headliners, I don't know that he would be the leading man. He wouldn't be the star of this movie.
Fred would be the leading man.
Fred would be the star. Sam would be a close second.
So who would you have play Fred?
See, I can't think of actors right at the top of my head.
As soon as you threw this out, I immediately George Clooney. Calm, cool, collected.
George is like 10 years older than Fred, isn't he?
But he's and some of the names we're going to throw out. The age isn't going to really.
How about
work.
Brad Pitt? He's a good-looking guy. Brad Pitt,
but I just think Clooney. Go back to Ocean's 11. Clooney leads the whole thing. Clooney's the guy that has no too high, no too low, even keel. Go back and watch Michael Clayton, the movie. That's to me, his character, Michael Clayton, is Fred.
I liked Up in the Air. Was it Up in the Air that he was?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Really
for Sam, how about this?
I think also Charlie has to play a big role in this movie.
And he does. And I don't know who I would cast because I don't know.
You would have to get twins. You would have to get twins to play the role.
What about brothers that kind of look alike?
Yeah.
Mark and Donnie Wahlberg, with Mark being Sam.
I like it.
The build is similar.
Did you see this? Was it TNT that ran the game last night? Where Charlie and Sam are obviously going through the game plan and talking about, basically they confess their love for each other. They were in the womb together.
Yeah.
They are best friends. And that's kind of how that interview, that it wasn't really an interview. It was just it was a story,
a mini documentary,
a mini documentary about Sam and Charlie. And it ended with Sam saying he's my best friend. And it just tugs at your heart. And he credits Charlie for the way he's playing this year. So that would be a big part of the movie because you have this guy, and Fred talks about it all the time, that because he was recruited during COVID, didn't get a lot of scholarships because teams were bringing back the same guys because they could because of COVID. So many high school kids, not just Sam and Charlie, were overlooked by college teams. And he talks to Fred about walking on, and Fred said, that's the first I even thought about that idea of Sam walking on to Nebraska. And because of the injuries that happened later on with Bandamel and others, Jawan Gary, he had to play. And he did. And you're thinking, well, yeah, he's a hustler. He gets rebounds. Sometimes he gets steals. He gets floor burns. He could be useful for 2 minutes at a time, but no more.
Or 38.
But that's what it became. You weren't thinking when he hit the floor that he was going to be playing 38 minutes.
No.
None of us were. But it would be a great movie.
The thing is, like, go back to when he got put into the lineup. It was one that you're like, as a fan and novice on my knowledge of the game, but it was one where he always affected the game in such a positive way. The plus minus, I go through the entire Nebraska basketball, every one of Sam Hoiberg's games that he's played at Nebraska. And I would like to know how many games he's had a plus minus that was actually negative. I know there's got to be some because there were games that we got blown out and he obviously played, and I'm sure there are.
I was going to ask that, and I asked that to none of our guests tonight, and I meant to. And it's something I think about all the time, and I think I have asked it before. Can you remember a player in Nebraska basketball history that has affected a game more than Sam without scoring? And he did it again last night. He had 8 points, but at the exact time where you desperately need a hoop, Rink misses a shot from the top of the key. Sam, I don't even know how Sam knew the ball could be coming off that way. But time and time again, if you watch him, he knows angles like no other player I've seen. He knows where the ball is going to be. And I watched it again. When Rink missed that shot, Sam started running from the time it was in the air.
Yeah.
And he could see where it was going to come off, and he picks it off in the air and puts it back in. And I'm going, that's amazing.
Well, his comment that, he didn't think about shooting it until he was like, I'm in the air and I caught the ball and the angle just seemed really perfect. And so he took the shot and obviously made it. His line yesterday, 8 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, the 1 big offensive rebound. And defensively, the 1 steal is kind of surprising, but Vandy, those guards are so quick. You're not going to get the pocket picking that he normally does. Had the 1 turnover where Tanner picked his pocket and got the dunk. And everybody's freaking out that he dunked on Rink Mast. And it's like Mast made sure to not foul him and kind of took a swipe at it as he was going. Like, he didn't dunk on Mast. It was so anyway. I like the movie thing that you were talking about. I was thinking for a Nate Linder though, it's got to be like an Al Pacino, a Jack Nicholson, a guy that's got fire to him.
Yeah. A character. He wouldn't have a big role in the movie, but he would be an assistant. Yeah. Kind of like Shooter from Hoosiers. I mean, obviously he doesn't have a drinking problem like Shooter's does. So maybe that's a bad comparison. But there would be a role for him. You got to have Sanford, an actor, play Sanford in some way because he's kind of a star. Rink would have to be played by an actor of some sort.
Well, I mean, all of them. Kale's got to have if you're going to make if you're going to make a movie about the team, you're going to have they're all going to play their role.
Right.
I mean,
and that's kind of what they've done.
That's the whole thing. I mean, you're going to have the guy that he gets 7 minutes of screen time. He's on the screen for 6 minutes, and it's Burke, whoever's playing Burke, when he gets his triple-double. And then he's got a grand total of 6 minutes of screen time the rest of the movie. But like all these guys, the Iowa game, Cale Jacobson's got 10 minutes of screen time in 12 minutes, but he only gets 14 minutes of screen time. But it's just like all of the things that these guys have done throughout the year that I would love to see showcased even more. Hey, you know what?
We should put it into AI and write the screenplay and get it done.
There we go.
You and we have an understanding of Nebraska basketball history. You could have side characters. We wouldn't be in it, but maybe we could be the radio guys. We could have 10, 15 seconds, talking about this show, Husker Rewind, and Sam could be one of our interviews. But, guys like Bo Reed, who goes to practice on a regular basis, Andy Markowski, those side characters would be involved as well. I think this would be a great movie. It's got to be made. We'll put it into AI and we'll have the screenplay written in a couple of days.
Let Husker Vision do the cinematic recap of the season, only make it about an hour and 45 minutes long.
Iowa is still leading by 13 over Florida, 3 minutes and 21 seconds in the first half. Mike is going to go home, and if Iowa wins the game, he's going to blow a gasket.
I'm showing 28-25 with 2:54.
Oh, 28-25. You're right. It's 28.
I was going to say it was just 4 points, like literally a minute ago. So I was like, man, Iowa hit 3 threes.
28.
You said 13.
Okay.
And I was like,
15. Okay. Yeah, they've come back, and so it's a 3-point game. I think Iowa hangs around. I really do. I think they're the type of team that will just frustrate any team that they play. And because they're like Nebraska in this way, you just don't face a lot of teams like Iowa. No. So it takes you half the game to adjust. Once Florida fully adjusts, they'll probably win by 10.
Maybe. Maybe they win by 30.
You don't know. But Nebraska did that to they started 20-0, so they did that to everybody to start the season. They're a tough team to adjust to. And then you see them again, and you get the scouting report over and over and over. It's a little easier. I thought actually Vandy did a really good job of adjusting to Nebraska pretty quickly.
Well, and so the thing is, Nebraska's next 2 opponents could theoretically be matchup number 3 versus Iowa and matchup number 3 versus Illinois, because those are the opponents of UConn or Houston and currently Florida.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling Illinois is going to knock off Houston.
Illinois, this is the year I think the Big Ten maybe wins the national title. First national title since 2000, and Michigan State doing it. And I think it's what Andy said. There are more teams, and we've seen it in football. Michigan, Ohio State, they have so much money to spend that they can get, that roster at Michigan has got to be $10 million.
Yep.
And I've heard it is. Very expensive. Nebraska's not spending $10 million on their roster of basketball. Michigan has. Ohio State, no, not so much. But there are a few. Illinois spent a ton of money on their roster, and Purdue spends a lot of money. I think this is the year for the Big Ten. I think they win the national title and break through this year. But I will not be here next week. I'll be in Orlando. You'll be here with a co-host. Not that you need one. So you'll talk to people next week.
Yes.
As Nebraska goes to the Final Four?
Yep.
You talking about that? All right, we're out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
See you.